Hey, sweet souls. It is DTO in the flow, wanting you to know it is time to take a deep breath. So don't forget to breathe. It's my joke about yoga teachers. You're paying someone to remind you to breathe. So why not have it on a podcast? So this is a live streaming podcast. This is an opportunity for you, yes, you, to contribute to the conversation. I get to interview Nameless Bulka today. So what that means, you can comment, ask a question, and of course you can share. Sharing is caring. And if anything, just comment with your favorite emoji. That helps us get this to the top of the pile of all the things you could scroll for miles. Check me out, DTO Music, on all the socials, dtomusic.com. I create life-enhancing music for yoga, meditation, movement practices. And guess where I'm located? Some of you know this. I am in Costa Rica at headquarters of Embody Costa Rica. And Embody stands for empowerment, movement, breakthroughs, opportunities, dharma, and yoga. And that is completely in alignment with our podcast today. And guess where I'm located? I am underground. This is an underground podcast. If you look under this yoga deck in the bottom left corner, you'll see some cement. I am creating spiritual music. The roots are deep here underneath this beautiful teak flooring yoga deck. I'm going to prove where I'm at by giving you a little view of this beautiful space. It's a 2,000 square foot yoga deck. We're on an acre of land at a healing sanctuary and retreat center. So come to Costa Rica. And if you happen to be watching this live, then you'll know that I'll be performing at Envision Festival in Costa Rica. I'll be playing the song that Nameless Bulka and I are going to be talking about called Chamomile, and the beloved Himalaya will be guiding. And to kick it off, my amazing brother from another mother, Nameless Bulka. Who is Nameless Bulka? Well, today we're going to find out who he is. Nameless is a Savannah-based, Maryland-born, multi-instrumentalist, music producer that has been inspired by classical, rock, and electronic music. He has an album called Tease, which is a collection of meditative experiences to calm your soul. Without further ado, let's bring on Nameless. Nice to see you, brother. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you, DTO?
Fantastic. This is a international podcast. You're in North America. I'm in Central America. And I love that you love classical music, rock music, electronic music. Before we fired up and went live, we were just talking about how one of my favorite bands growing up is Van Halen. And of course, I was classically trained on piano and having all these styles. I feel like the genre now is just whatever you resonate with, whatever music you happen to hear when you were a kid growing up, whatever kind of music that comes through your soul. So we're going to talk about this beautiful album that you created called Tease, and how one of those songs, Chamomile, was reimagined and brought to life once again in 2023 with some extra love into the flavor. All the metaphors have to do with tea, obviously, so we can keep them going. All right. Well, this is a 5Q interview, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to start off with question number 1, Nameless, which is about your origin story. So question 1 is, how did you discover music?
Well, great question. My mother played piano for me, my brother, and my sister growing up. We had an old, probably out of tune piano, and she knew a few classical songs that she had learned from her dad, who played classical piano. And we would just run around in circles listening to the same song over and over again, because she knew 2 songs really well, but no more than that. So we listened to the same Beethoven, I think it was, was like da na 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 da na da na da na na. We would just run in circles all around the living room, and at that point, I was like, "This is for me." It was entrancing, and it got me moving. Even though it was classical, it was still fun, and she was playing it, which I think was the most impressive part for me. Um, to know that humans could create this special feeling with sound that could make your body move and your mind think and just be happy to be alive.
I love that. Yeah, and it's almost as though when you're in the laboratory of creating music, you're dialing in frequencies, vibrations, and energies that can emote through us what those feelings are, like joy, bliss, like, wow, I'm alive, presence. And music can just like drop you into that field. So that's amazing that you got to experience that at a young age. And I love the curiosity and the wonder of, wow, how can humans create this? This is amazing. It's almost like we're in the sandbox of life, like playing with sound waves. So that's awesome. All right, follow-up question would be for you to then talk about what inspired you to play and write your own music.
So when I was in college, I picked up the guitar because my roommate played the guitar, and I had some free time. I wanted to learn, and I also worked at a performing arts center, the Clarice Smith Performing Arts Center at the University of Maryland, and I was an usher, and I had a lot of free time after sitting all of the guests, and there was exposure to some of the best music in the area in the world, and there was a music theory textbook in the Lost and Found, and every day I'd check and make sure it was there because during the performances I would read and just try to pick out um, what I could learn to learn more about harmony as I was learning the guitar. And so I kind of came at music from a kind of a calculated perspective. It's always been like that. And then mixing in the emotion is the real fun part. So I like to compose. So I started music as a armchair composer, just writing MIDI lines in Finale and trying to understand what I was learning um, in this lost and found textbook. And as I played more and more guitar, I started to understand the concepts. And like I was saying earlier, my mom, she played the piano, so she taught me, she put me in piano lessons early, which I'm really thankful for. I don't think I always appreciated them as much in the moment, but looking back, I'm super happy that she took me to those lessons, drove me to them every week, and made me practice um, because it gave me a really good visual sense. The piano is really visual for me to see all the notes and the relationships between them, and um, I learned how to put what was happening in my head onto the piano and kind of digest the notes from my fingers, and just to hear them and how they all played together was an invaluable experience growing up. So thankful for her for that. And over time, I've just been more and more on the composing side, putting notes into Logic or Finale and playing with them, running them through different synthesizers. Uh, and every time I play the same MIDI line through a new instrument, it sounds different and inspiring. And I just enjoy the exploration process there. It's kind of piggybacking off my own curiosity uh, in the sound realms.
I love that we have something in common. Big shout out to both of our moms for bringing us to this extraordinary world called music. So I love that. And I love how you're talking about MIDI. And MIDI stands for, if you don't know, everyone, it's Musical Instrument Digital Interface. So MIDI is a revolutionary technology that was created that allows for the notes to be played and shown. So for example, if you want to play a C, an F, a G, a 1-4-5, it's like the classic chord progression. You could play that with any kind of sound. And then once it's recorded with the MIDI, then you can swap out the instruments. So that's really beautiful about putting different synthesizers, experimenting. And as we all know that are out there that are music producers, there's different DAWs or digital audio workstations. So you're talking about using Logic, or there's Ableton, there's Pro Tools. So there's different software. It's kind of like the analogy I tell people is if you arrive to your destination in a Toyota, a Honda, or a Hyundai, or a Tesla, you're still arriving. It's just how you get there. And so there's different preferences that a lot of people have when it comes to music production. And it starts, though, which I love, is our moms showing us the piano and the lessons, and here are the notes. And then how do these notes have us feel, right? And then when you start to play other people's music, or I call it OPP, then you start to generate and create your own. So I love how all of this is really connected to like being experimental. I think every music producer by nature, they have curiosity, like, ooh, how cool would it be if I had this sound, or, this like grindy bass sound with some like ethereal, beautiful, divine feminine vocals. Sometimes it's like playing with the sweet and the sour, right? And so it's experimental, and that's what I love. And obviously you're quite experimental, because in your bio I read clearly that you have classical, rock, and electronic music as your influences. So that's really powerful. I love that. And I love the fact that you said like it could be technical too. Like it's the music theory, the left brain is just as important as the right brain, creative and, being in the flow. So, all right, well, let's jump into question 3. So what is your unique approach to songwriting? You obviously made an album about teas. So how does this come through when it comes to how you approach your own style of Nicholas Bulka music?
Yeah, I think you alluded to it a little bit in your previous comments there, and that is what's unique for me is it is that it's always been difficult for me to really pick a genre proper. So rock, classic, EDM. It's hard for me to pick one of those and stick to it, and so that leads, at least for me personally, to sounds that end up kind of like the Tease album, which are explorations into sort of a soundscape, a feeling, an atmosphere, where it's less about the genre and more about trying to evoke an area of space and time that stands on its own and is as timeless as I can make it. And what that means is it's tied less to, in my opinion, the fads of the music that were going on during the time that Tease was written. Now, I still have to use the synthesizers and the sounds that are common, and that's where it becomes fun and challenges my creativity, because everyone is trying to sound familiar but novel. And so with Tease, my goal was to create an ambient rhythmic arena where the different instruments play off each other more as a team than anyone taking the stage. And I've seen a lot of tutorials and gone through classes where the mantra is stressed to have a single like singer focus, like even with a synthesizer instrument, to have one main character play the role of lead singer. And on Tease, the goal there was to sort of make that rhythm and to have the different instruments play off of each other to provide the the schema so that you can imagine what that conversation is between the different instruments. So they're sharing the story. They're telling it all almost like a popcorn reader style, where one instrument is saying one line to tell the story of the song, and another instrument will follow up in an almost call and response pattern, but one where there's not one central focus. And so I think the conscious decision to make the track almost as much about the reverb choices as the lead singer is what makes Tease unique. And my goal is to do a follow-up album to Tease, but we can talk about that soon too. But the goal there is something similar, to make it more about the sound design and rhythm, as opposed to the standing out of like a lead concept or singer.
Yeah, I love that. That's it's all really, we're almost in this like multi-dimensional, multi-genre experience, especially with all the technology and the electronic dimensions of sound, and like quantum. Even in Ableton, for example, there's a quantizer where you can like create the sounds to like sync up, or the tempos, right? And with all the plugins and all these instruments, and of course, I do want to bring in the fact, not everyone may know this about you, but you are a bass player. So how many instruments do you play? Let's talk about you as an instrumentalist. So you said you took piano lessons. You obviously have guitars hanging on your wall behind you.
Yeah. I play a little bit of a lot of things. Guitar is probably the one I'm most proficient on, but I play piano and synths, drums, bass. I have a lot of instruments for my daughters: xylophones, steel
She's
drums.
a little Instagram star. I saw one of these videos you posted of her like dancing around, moving to the music. So I think it's in the bloodline.
Yeah, she's super. They're both super talented, and I can tell they both have a good ear for pitch. My her teacher was out one day, and one of the substitutes was a very very proficient violinist, and she came up to us after school and she said she was singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and she hit every note, and like I'm pretty sure that's pretty rare for a girl of her age. And I was like, nice. I really secretly like, oh cool, but like inside I'm just beaming and very, I don't want to put any pressure on her, but she if she loves music, I just want her to explore it and be passionate about it.
I love that. Yeah, because as you know, in our life as well, of course, we have other passions and we have other areas that we focus on. In music, I'd imagine for you, similar to me, is like this place where you can always go and have creativity, self-expression, emotional release, and just open up to almost like a divine flow of, like, as John Lennon famously said, he didn't write one song, he allowed the song to write itself. So when you're in that almost place of surrender and openness, as you said, like how your daughter like just hits the notes and she's got that perfect pitch and she's already in that possibility. But I understand, as a parent, for you, it's like no pressure. It's not like you're needing to have her be that. But at the same time, I think no matter where we are in life, and I think it just goes under the category of creativity. Whatever you choose to do in this life, just having some creative outlet really is important.
100%.
That's awesome. All right. So how do people respond to your music? Is there any words, or I know you've been getting a lot of rave reviews from the collaborative song that we did, and more people discovering your music. So what are some typical responses that people say to you when they listen to your music?
Yeah. So one of the most interesting producers that I've had the opportunity of hanging out with, I met him I stayed at his house in Denver for a little producers retreat. His name is Alex. He goes by the name Missing Links. He said something interesting about my music, and it kind of stuck with me. And that was after we listened to Tease through the whole thing, and I really appreciate that he sat down and did that with me. But he said, it's hard to go fast and slow at the same time, and you do that well in this album. And I'm not sure exactly what he meant by that, but I think that it's a testament to the amount of care that I put into rhythm and polyrhythm. I like to make things feel just unstable enough to be interesting, but then always resolve back to a home base that makes sense, almost like it was obvious in hindsight, but is still surprising and novel. So that is one unique characteristic I think that I have. Another one is just the peaceful element, where I've been honestly trying to do this a little bit more with more intention, is to keep the vibe really happy, because coming from a musical theory and classical starting point, there's a lot you can do to make things interesting. In my opinion, some of that is easier done when you have more chords available, potentially with different minor scales that kind of just sound sad. So I've been trying to intentionally practice writing in major keys, and to really double down on that peacefulness that people have responded well to with songs like Chamomile and the Tease album in particular, where that was the goal, was to keep it in a positive mindset. And of course, there's always, especially with music, there's room for sadness and exploring tragedy, and not everything has to be happy. But in this age and where I'm at in life, like the music that I'm making is reflecting just being super happy with being a new dad. And so I really appreciate it when people comment and say, this is very peaceful and relaxing and inspiring a positive mindset.
I love that. And, with all the chaos in the world, it's always great to play with the dance of the major keys, but also the minor that has a resolve or ends in the root. That always is nice. There's like this emotional resolve that we get. So yeah, there's so many possibilities with music. I mean, this is why for you to design music specifically around Tease. And then let's talk about how you and I met. I know probably people are wondering that know you, that know me. I'm sure we have some shared friends and always brand new people. So how did we meet?
I was listening to Kristen Dreamtonic give a little interview through the Producer Dojo, which is a Discord group and community that I'm a part of. Very good mixing and mastering tips there for anyone interested. And she mentioned that she was coming out with a new song. It was called Here I Am, which she did with you, and great song. You should check that out. And so when she said that, I was interested because I like her music, and I checked it out, listened to DTO, and I found in your music a similar focus on rhythm and spatial awareness, which I really appreciated, and that ability to go both fast and slow in a track with different instruments and layers, motifs. So I reached out to DTO, and I think I just asked you to listen to my Tease album and see if you liked it, and kind of left the door open there for collaboration, for friendship, and I really appreciate you responding back.
Yes. Yeah, it's so awesome how we all connect. And then we talked about reimagining the song Chamomile, which, as you can see, is available on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, all the platforms out there. And you're a graphic artist, so this is a beautiful artwork that you created. And so, yeah, I thought it was so cool how the music, very similar, as you said, like spatial awareness, sound design, that really creates these feelings within us. And I definitely feel like we're working in the same realm as far as our intentions. And I'm always open to collaboration. So I love how we hopped on a call. We started talking about how we could reinvent chamomile. And then, of course, this launched the beginning of 2023. And yeah, super grateful for that. So this leads us into question 5, which is, what is your latest project? And of course, chamomile. And then do you want to speak into anything you have cooking for 2023? So anyone out there that is already following you on Spotify or other platforms can understand what to look out for.
Sure. So I recently started a guitar-based track that incorporates a lot of the sound design elements from teas and chamomile specifically. And I'm looking to take the ideas from some of the reimagined ideas of chamomile and layer them around a guitar-centric track, which is I have a really great guitarist in Ukraine who has laid down some nylon string guitar. So the first song that I release in 2023 will be a Game of Thronesy sort of melodic guitar-driven soundscape. So I say Game of Thronesy because it kind of fits like what you might hear in the running of the credits at the end of or an intro to a cinematic piece. It's got the cinematic elements of dramatic violins with a driving melody with the vocals, with the angelic vocals, and violins that pick up on the melody when the guitar drops a little bit.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, I say it's a great moment to share a little snippet. And I recently got the official Spotify This Is DTO, and guess where chamomile is? It's right after my most streamed song.
Oh, wow.
It's in the middle, actually. It's a little sandwich here. It's in between Breath and Breathe, which are 2 of my most streamed and popular songs. So let's play for everyone. Let's see, hopefully this. Let's do a little audio tech. How's that sounding? Can you hear it?
Cannot.
Okay. Let me do a quick little reshare here. So yeah, when playlists are made, and anyone out there that wants to support us, it really comes down to playlists. Like that's really the way that artists like ourselves that are, self-produced, is the more that you can get out there and share on your own personal playlist, it can really support us. Okay, let's see here. Do another sound check here. Okay. The fun of doing a live stream. I think it's on your website. So let's check out your web. There we go.
That might be the original.
Well, that gives everyone an idea of the vibes of your music,
Yeah.
Nicholas. So awesome. Okay, so any closing thoughts, any words? I'm going to make sure that everyone can follow you on Instagram, go to your website. And yeah, thanks for being on the podcast. Thanks for answering our 5Q interview.
Thank you.
And yeah, let's keep the collaborations, the good spirit of sharing, everyone out there. So make sure that if you enjoyed this podcast, as I mentioned at the beginning, is you can comment, ask questions. We could respond to those later on. They don't have to be in real time. And then, of course, share this live stream. And if you know anyone that would like to be interviewed or would enjoy our music, then reach out to us at any time. So thanks again, Nicholas. Appreciate you.
Till next time. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.